Alrighty, folks, we're back at it with our latest Big Mets update segment as we have plenty to break down here because I know many of you amazing Mets fans first chiming in watching this live right now to our 1,000 concurrent viewers as we're breaking this down our post-game segment after the Mets took down the White Sox 2-0 and secured a series victory to round out their road trip 7-3. That is amazing, baby. Spam the W's in the comments down below to my replay viewers that watch this after the fact if it's been clipped as a separate segment out of the post-game coverage. But what we have here on the updates front is certainly interesting, and last night when we initially saw the reports, I was a little taken back like every single one of you. Initially heading into the Mets roster expanding this September, we thought guys like Luisangel Acuna especially would be the offensive acquisition barring changes. Why? Carlos Mendoza emphasized that the Mets are looking for athleticism, versatility, and a guy that has speed and can steal bags. Right away, you're thinking Luisangel Acuna, who had a 3-for-5 day yesterday in the minor leagues that we'll talk about in our prospect updates later on the show here, and has been looking sharp overall the past month plus of baseball. However, the Mets decided to go with the infield option and said that is not Luisangel Acuna, and that is not even Luke Ritter, who I know a lot of Mets fans really wanted. Luke Ritter, 27-year-old prospect that the Mets have at the AAA level, basically like a Jeff McNeil in the sense where he's been buried in the minors his whole career, has had great minor league numbers, but hasn't been given the opportunity yet, at least with the Mets here. Luke Ritter has great power, has been able to go gap to gap, and he's an infield option that a lot of fans wanted the Mets to consider if they weren't going to go with Luisangel Acuna. So what do the Mets do? They go with Pablo Reyes, as no one expected, outside of my buddy Isaac Groffman, our pitching contributor on the channel that he does nightly work for us, as he said that Reyes is an option, and he ended up being right. And for those that don't know Pablo Reyes, why the Mets make the decision to call him up over Luisangel Acuna? What's the following reasons? And it's as simple as this. It's service time for Luisangel Acuna. Why are you going to hurt his service time when he's going to be in a very limited role? Not that the Mets are known for service time manipulation right now post Steve Cohen or anything, but it is something to bear in mind. But the greater thing is you don't want to hurt his development and you want Acuna to play every single day. If Acuna is caught up by the Mets right now, given their roster configuration, he would be nothing more than a late infield replacement late in the ballgame for a Mark Vientos potentially, or maybe get some reps there at second base over McNeil or Iglesias, but it's certainly not needed for a guy with the lack of experience that he has. And while he has great speed on the bags, I would rightfully argue is why he's great as a pinch running option. What you have right now in Pablo Reyes, what he just did for the Mets in this 2-0 victory, is exactly why the Mets called him up. So I think Reyes is a short-term option that they have right now. They are going to definitely change him if he does not thrive the way that they expect him to. A great start, no less. But the Mets may look for more impact before the end of the year. But for now, what they think is currently best for this roster with how the schedule is aligning and how things are going is Pablo Reyes, the 30-year-old infielder who was acquired by the Mets back in May. I was in a hotel actually typing the tweet as I saw it there as Reyes was acquired by the Mets, I think for cash considerations or something from the Red Sox. A guy who's had MLB experience, hits for high contact at the AAA level, hit right around almost 300 this year with a 376 and a 491 slug then that we saw for AAA Syracuse that we have seen the minor leagues as a whole this year. He was chosen over guys like Luisangel Acuna because he's an infield option that can also play outfield if you really need him to. Steals bags, had at least 13 stolen bags at the AAA level this year, and funny enough, came in as a pinch runner right away for the Mets that we all saw for JD Martinez with 2 outs in the 9th inning in their 2-0 victory. That second run is all Pablo Reyes running first all the way to home after Starling Marte rips one there that we see in the gap for a double. Marte with the RBI heroics, but the base running heroics by Pablo Reyes is what made that insurance run happen more than anything else. So Reyes doing exactly what the Mets expect him to do as an infield outfield option, mostly infield, a guy that can play over all the place. He does have MLB experience, as we know, has had some slivers, some slashes of success, if you will, with the Boston Red Sox. And funny enough, with the Mets now matched up to face the Red Sox for their homestand beginning this Monday, I would not be shocked if that former Red Sox turned Met does get some playing time as, again, a either pinch runner later in the ballgame, potentially a late defensive replacement if they want to see what he can do if the Mets say have a blowout victory and want to take the defense away from Mark Vientos and they shift to Pablo Reyes there at third base. However they want to go about it is exactly why they are operating as such with Pablo Reyes over Luisangel Acuna. But there's one bat that I think truly could propel himself to make a rightful argument, because them not going with Ritter is just further reason as to why you shouldn't expect Ritter to get the call at any point this season, barring changes. But in the case of Drew Gilbert, who has been absolutely tearing the cover off the ball, Mets top outfield prospect, absolutely rakes. When he's on, he's on. He's not a guy that you want in limited situations, but he's a guy that might just turn things on and be so hot for the next couple weeks here in the month of September that could warrant a late September call for the Mets. And let's also not forget what can happen throughout the course of the final month, depending on how much the Mets are still in the thick of things of the wild card, or God forbid if they truly free fall, that'll also dictate the Mets bringing up their young talent and seeing what kind of opportunities that they may find themselves having. So Pablo Reyes, he gets the call. Luis Angel Acuna, Drew Gilbert, DJ Stewart, Luke Ritter, the list goes on and on. All those other minor league options are going to stay in the minor leagues, barring changes. I don't think Reyes will be here for the remainder of the month. I think he will only be here for a couple weeks. We'll see what happens, though, and we'll see if I'm right or wrong. And I've been wrong a lot. We all know that. All of us Mets fans have been wrong a lot, and that's why I'm really interested to see how long Reyes stays on this team and just how much of an impact he has behind those pinch running heroics that we saw in the series finale against the White Sox. But going from offense, now let's get into pitching. On the pitching end, Alex Young. Remember him? The Mets acquired Alex Young earlier this year, either from, I believe, from the San Francisco Giants. After the Giants actually traded for him from the Reds, Alex Young, a very solid southpaw option. The bullpen posted a 1.29 ERA with the Mets in 7 games this season, has been added as an extra southpaw arm, along with Danny Young. One Young, another Young, 2 Youngs, both soft-tossing southpaws. Add them in the pen. That's what you're getting. I liked Alex Young from the time the Mets first acquired him. I didn't think it was deserving when he was sent down initially either. I'm happy to see him back up with the Mets here. And Young will be an interim option, as that is a spot I'm sure will be ever-changing with bullpen configuration, rotation configuration. Do not expect Alex Young to be that standalone guy. I expect a lot of movement to happen in this bullpen, and potentially to a degree with this rotation at minimum with McGill and Blackburn, as Tyler McGill is slotted to pitch this Wednesday, I believe, for the Mets for his second start since returning from the AAA Syracuse, and what we have there in Paul Blackburn ramping up from his injury on the 15-day IL. Blackburn took a 100-mile-per-hour comebacker against the Padres thanks to David Peralta, sadly, the schmuck that he is. We see Paul Blackburn now have a rehab start this Tuesday. We'll see how he does, and they'll go from there before ultimately activating him when he can be activated initially off the 15-day IL list. So that's the latest there on the offense and the pitching. I'm really curious how you guys feel about that in the comments down below, and everybody down below. It really does mean a lot. ESPN, they talk about everything but the game. Zach, Straight Talk with Jack Graham. Great member, as always, my man. I mean, you're preaching to the choir when it comes to their baseball coverage. That's exactly why they want Lindor and others being mic'd up all games, so that way that they don't have to talk about the game themselves. Other than Cone, I mean, I think he does a great job. Aside of him, though, no, there's just a huge lack of baseball knowledge there, one, and a lack of appreciation for properly breaking down the ball game inning by inning, like you're paid the thousands of dollars that you're supposed to be doing exactly that. I digress. That's a tangent for another day. But what isn't a tangent for another day is the Mets prospect reports, because before I rapid fire with each and every one of you the key takeaways from the Mets farm yesterday at AAA, AA, and Single A level, let me enlighten you on Matthew Allen, who is a Mets top prospect that we all know used to be a Mets top prospect, I should say. It's now 5 years since Matt Allen, since being drafted, that we saw the Mets really took a gamble on a high slot value at the time. The Mets decided to go with. Matt Allen has not pitched a single game at the professional level since being drafted by the Mets, and this is now going to be a 5th straight year where he will not be doing exactly that. Allen, who finally had some positives this year, continuing to rehab and ramp up after 5 years of no pro ball and endless injuries, he will be with the Mets, hopefully making an impactful start at the minor league level, beginning in spring training, heading into the minor league season in 2025. But yes, Matt Allen, who is still positively progressing upward, a huge year of development for Allen, who's finally starting to get healthy and get right after dealing with everything under the sun injury-wise to his arm. It looks like that he's going to be back and finally getting into pro ball as soon as next season, but it will not be happening this year. So yes, Matt Allen, for those that remember him, he will be with the Mets at the minor league level, but it will not be until at minimum next season. So that's the latest here with the Mets and their key prospect updates. Maybe guys that you either didn't think of or heard of all that much and their impact that they have on you. But let's also get into one final update that I have for you all. That's a couple days overdue, and I didn't mention it 2 nights ago because it was posted mere minutes after our live show was done, and that is what I'm sure many of you already know about already. Jonathan has been moved up already now to the AA level. Why is that exciting for the Mets to get Jonathan already in the position with the Romo Ponies? Ton, who's freshly turned 21 as of 2 months ago. Appreciate the follow back on Twitter X. Appreciate you, Ton. Hopefully we can get an interview at some point. We'll love you hear you chop it up about your amazing Arsenal flamethrowing right-hander. Love what Ton is bringing to the Mets this year, along with Brandon Sproat and a lot of other high risers, Joander Suarez among others, who had a rough first start at the AAA level after being moved up from AA to AAA. Mets arms in the minor leagues are much better than what you would think right now. And Ton is quickly rising like Brandon Sproat this year. And Ton, who looked brilliant with Port St. Lucie, very sharp there with the Cyclones, is now with his third team in his second professional season. Ton will absolutely be with the Syracuse Mets next season, barring any changes. Another arm that could impact the Mets at some point over the next year and a half or so. Very exciting stuff for the young right-hander there. And Ton, definitely want to know how you guys feel about that as well. And now, before I let you all out of here, let's get into this. Wardy, are you excited about the progress of Ryan Lambert? I'm ecstatic on the progress of Ryan Lambert. We talked about that a couple days ago as well, but Mets 8th round draft pick Ryan Lambert, who throws absolute gas, already leapfrogged we saw in low A, is starting things out with the Brooklyn Cyclones. So already, or Brooklyn Cyclones or Double A. I want to say he's starting out with the Cyclones. I know that he's skipping at least one minor league level team for the Mets to begin his pro career after being drafted by them this year. Awesome stuff with Ryan Lambert. Cannot say enough great things about that. That's huge news as well. But let's get into the prospect updates, everybody, on what we saw transpire over this past night's worth of games. Because as we're currently recording this 5:30 p.m. Eastern, September 1st here, we do not currently have updates on the Syracuse Mets and others because their games haven't started yet. So let's get into this past night of games, and I'm going to rapid fire our key takeaways from the Syracuse Mets to what we saw there, the Rumble Ponies, Cyclones, and wrap things up with the Port St. Lucie Mets. They dropped their game 8-4 in this one that we saw yesterday against the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs in my neck of the woods. Luis Angel Acuna with a fantastic 3 for 5 days. We mentioned RBI, a 265 average and a 676 OPS on the year for the leadoff hitter, commanding second base there in Acuna. Drew Gilbert with a 1 for 5 day as he continues to get at least one hit. Pablo Reyes, who had a run scored for the Mets today, went 1 for 5 with a run scored and an RBI yesterday. Luke Ritter, another great day, 2 for 5 with 2 runs scored and an RBI, 259 average, 874 OPS. Just for some context on Luke Ritter, everybody, why do Mets fans want him called up? The guy is currently with an 874 OPS at the minor league level. He's 27 years of age. He can play second base. He can play third base. He can give you various infield options to come in as a late game replacement. And he's also a guy that I think you could argue would make sense to give an opportunity to over Reyes, where you might actually have something in the bat. Pablo Reyes is a very strong contact hitter, and maybe that, not maybe, but that MLB experience is truly what I'm sure trumped the decision for him to be chosen over that being Luke Ritter, for example. But Ritter, no less, having a great year, 25 home runs, 84 RBIs rather, and this is after having a 27 home run and a 64 RBI season in 2023, and a 15 home run and a 62 RBI season in 2022. Ritter continues to trend upward throughout his career. If the Mets aren't going to give him an opportunity this season, it better come next year before the guy is getting close to 30 already, because this is absolutely a guy that why wouldn't you at least consider what you have, right? And go from there. Luke Ritter has done his part at the AAA level for a number of years now. While AAA is not the major league level, we have to understand that. It doesn't change the fact that everyone deserves an opportunity at some point. They're really holding their own at previous leagues. And it's not really his fault outside of maybe being overly proficient at defensive positions as to why he hasn't been given the call by the Mets yet and their depth that they have currently on the roster. But that's it on Ritter, and that's it on the Syracuse Mets in that matchup as they lost 8-4. Dominic Hamel with another brutal start at the, sadly, at the minor league level. 3.2 innings of 6 earned run ball, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 6.277 ERA. Dominic Hamel has fluctuated with his production a lot now, and after being Mets minor league pitcher of the year a year and a half ago, far from it now as he continues to labor quite a bit at the AAA level. Joey Lucchesi had 2 innings of work and gave up 2 runs, 4 strikeouts. He is not a guy the Mets are going to call on anytime soon. Shintaro Fujinami, however, is an exception, is an arm I wouldn't be shocked if the Mets may consider before the end of the season. Fuji with another 2 innings of scoreless work now, 2 strikeouts, and Shintaro Fujinami, everybody, has been really settling in and finally looking comfortable a bit with that control that we're now seeing at the AAA level. Something he struggled with so far at his career entirely. But when we take a look currently right now at the minor leagues this season, let's actually do game logs. It'll let me do it for the minor leagues. If it doesn't, no worries. For the Syracuse Mets, if we go all the way down here, Shintaro Fujinami's last outing, we see 2 innings, scoreless. Last outing before that, 1 inning, scoreless. 2 scoreless, 1 score. Wow, Shintaro Fujinami, everybody, in the month of August, 12 innings, 3 hits allowed, 2 earned runs, 0 home runs allowed, and we're looking at just 4 walks, 14 strikeouts over those 12 innings. A tremendous K to walk per 9 if we're looking at the ratio there. Shintaro Fujinami, a flamethrowing relief option for the Mets that they have not tapped into yet this season, mainly because Fuji just simply don't have the control. Like, it's just as simple as that. Fujinami hasn't had it. Fuji looking absolutely fantastic throughout the past month for the Mets. If the Mets are going to consider Shintaro Fujinami, it feels like it's going to happen sooner rather than later because we don't have much games left to play this season, right? So it's got to happen. Ken, I love you, Ken. But listen, Ken, you've watched the channel for years. Yeah, we got you unblocked not all that long ago. You know I rapid fire talk. If you're expecting me to breathe now, I don't know what you were expecting that was anything different, those previous years, right? Things are not going to change on that front, brother. But I love you, and I appreciate you chiming in no less. Fantastic job by Shintaro Fujinami. My question to each and every one of you is, should the Mets give Shintaro Fujinami a shot before the end of the regular season as a flamethrowing option in their bullpen? Let me know in the comments down below to my live viewers in the post-game segment. You guys can continue to break down exactly that. On the Rumble Ponies, let's transition to the Rumble Ponies because in their matchup, they ended up losing 7-6 in extra innings to the Yard Goats in this one. And now let's take a look at what stood out so much on the box score at least. So let me pull this up real quick. Our key performers in this matchup. Massive day for my guy, Ryan Clifford. If you guys don't know Ryan Clifford is one of the Mets' top prospects that they acquired with Drew Gilbert that we saw just a year or so ago for Justin Verlander from the Astros. Ryan Clifford with a 4-for-5 day with an RBI, a 232 average, at 815 OPS. What I love so much about Ryan Clifford is he's just a huge free swinger. He plays first base. He can play corner outfield. He plays various positions. Not that he has great defensive upside. Clifford may profile best as a DH in his career, but to have that power implementation from the left side of the plate is massive, and Clifford is nasty. He absolutely torments baseballs, and he's probably the hardest hitter in the Mets farm, not named Jesus Baez. That's how good he has been. Rudick, what a 2-for-6 game there that we saw. Jordan 1-for-5. Just seeing anything notable. Alex Ramirez with a 3-for-5 day yesterday with 2 runs scored and an RBI. Love to see that. 213 average, a 600 OPS. He's been underwhelming all year. Not a prospect that the Mets are overly high on after initially being one of our top outfield prospects because that's how depleted our farm was. And on the pitching end, Nolan McLean got absolutely rocked after a brilliant last outing. McLean, after pitching his best start of the season at the AA level, now has one he'd like to have back. 3.2 innings of 6 hit, 5 earned run ball, 4 walks, 2 strikeouts, a 4.71 ERA for one of the Mets' numerous pitching prospects that they have that were pretty high on. McLean is a top 5 pitching prospect for the Mets right now. You can even argue top 3. Not an ideal outing there for him, but I expect him to bounce back again. Nick Morabito, our contact hitting leadoff king there for the Brooklyn Cyclones at the high A level. 1-for-4 with a run scored as the Cyclones won 9-2. Wow, big win there over Dash. And we saw offensively, Lugo with another big day, 3-for-4 with 4 runs scored and 2 RBIs. Not Seth. This is a different Lugo. Offensively, we saw Mercado look good. Not a lot of guys that you really should be caring about, but maybe want to care about right now at the minor league level. But for me, it's Nick Morabito. He's the top draft pick for the Mets from just a year and a half ago now, and I absolutely love him. Hitting 285 with a 710 OPS. That is a guy that you should not be shocked if you see given an opportunity at some point or the next year or so in the outfield. Very good range in the outfield, nice speed, and a great contact hitter. Love me some Morabito. And last but not least, let's see what we have here for the Port St. Lucie Mets before we wrap up this one, folks. And for the Port St. Lucie Mets against the Hammerheads, they lost 11-9 in their matchup in this one. And when we look at Colin Houck, Mets' top prospect, that's the biggest standout there. Outside of, a guy like Baez, for example, what we saw with Houck was an 0-for-4 day. What we saw with Carson Baines was an 0-for-5 day. So the Mets' top drop pick, who they drafted in the first round this year, an 0-for day there after looking great his first week or so in the pros. Oh, a little bit of humble pie. It's going to happen, everybody. Don't worry. He's still looking great, and he's just getting his career started at the pro level. Vargas, 3 walks and RBI there. He looks solid as well. Serrano looked very sharp. 2-for-5 with 2 runs scored. Nothing overly notable there on the pitching end or the offensive end, everybody. And that's going to do it for our latest farm update and our latest Big Mets update segment that we have here on the channel. DMAC with a $2 haul in the chat says, is it not too late to add Fujinami? It's not too late to add Fujinami. You can switch. Mets can still make their roster configuration. They can call Fujinami and send someone down whenever they want. But Fujinami, I think the only concern might be with Fuji is his playoff eligibility if the Mets made playoffs and he was looking great. I'm not exactly sure what the status is on that, but if I'm a betting man, I'd say that because Fujinami has been, he was initially on the roster I think that might be part of the problem. Let me know in the comments down below on this, everybody. But Fujinami was on the Mets 40-man. They DFA'd him to make roster room over the past month, and he's still in the organization. He's looking great now over this past month at the AAA level. Can the Mets call for him? Yes. But because that they DFA'd him, I'm curious if that at all throws a wrench into things on like basically the risk of him being picked up, because I don't think Fuji would be picked up if the Mets brought him up and sent him down again, because unless he dominated, which why would they send him down? He's on a over $3 million contract this year. So no one's going to want to just eat that, especially for a guy that isn't going to be at the MLB level. Let's see. Not worth more than $15 million a year. Who are we talking about, Ken? We're talking about Alonso. I got you. Okay. Just what the Mets need, more walks. No, they don't. The only reason why we're talking about Fujinami actually is because of his lowered walk rate. If Fujinami was walking everyone the mother, the Mets wouldn't even consider someone like him. And even then, I don't foresee the Mets going out of their way to call him up just yet. We'll see what happens from now until the end of the month of September. But that's where I feel currently. In camp, Fuji's not on the 40-man, which means he's not eligible for postseason. That sounds about right. So everybody, that is going to do it for our live show and our latest Big Mets update segment. If you guys watch this for our post-game coverage on YouTube, thank you so much. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe on your way out. Let us know your biggest takeaway from this one. I will see you guys all later. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your night, evening, whenever you're watching this. Be on the lookout, as I'll probably post this segment after the fact on the channel as a separate video to cut it out of the post-game coverage. So to all my replay viewers, let me know your biggest takeaway down below in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Stay tuned as we will cover every single game throughout the week this week. As we get to the weekend, I may have some hiccups as to if I will be live right away. May have to do a pre-recorded video on either Friday or Saturday, as your boy has a big weekend coming up. But throughout the week, throughout the Red Sox and everything going on, we are covering everything to a T as we always do. Thank you guys so much for the support. And if you listen to this in the audio format, as this was over a long 1+ hour show, thank you so much for that. Make sure to rate, review, leave a 5-star review if you found yourself enjoying the content on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you get your audio podcasts for all your Wardy NYM coverage. Thank you guys again. I love you all to death. And as always, no matter what, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out. Oh, wait, you know what? We will do it. Just for you guys, we will do it on our way out. We will do it. I apologize. We got to let it rip once more. If you know, in our post-game shows with the one, the only, GSU is going to hate this, the official Wardy NYM post-game jingle. Let's let it rip, everybody. Let's get into this one.